Christianity is under attack all the time. You can't say anything about other religions, and then you have this global pandemic where everyone's looking at everyone like, let's just put our differences aside, let's just sing Kumbaya and be one race. We've all got to band together and fight this thing together. And then anybody who says no, just because we are all human beings doesn't mean to say we're serving the same God. You are now the hater. You are the one stopping progress. You are the one who is wicked. You are the one who is this. So you've got collapsing of religion, and this is something that's in Freemasonic lodges. If you go to the lodge, there, you swear allegiance, and there's a Bible, there's a Quran, there's a Torah, there's all kind of religious books there. So whatever religion you say you are outside of the lodge, you can swear on your book. Even though I heard that when you get to the 33rd degree, all books are removed except the Quran, but that's a different story altogether. And that's one of the reasons why I only ever played the first Assassin's Creed, because as I got towards the end of the game, I started to find, as soon as I turned it on, I started to get a headache. And I'm not going to say, oh, I'm so spiritual or whatever, but I find I get a headache when I go into the bookshop. Sometimes I get to a certain spot and I find my head starts to really hurt me. I turn around and there's like occult books right there. I'm not saying I'm sensitive all the time, but definitely I find like, oh, no wonder, books about spells and things like that behind me, And obviously anyone who's played the first Assassin's Creed knows that once the game is completed, the room that's got the device where Altair travels back in time, it actually has all these occult symbols like glowing eye, spirals and things on the wall. You think, oh, okay, makes sense now. I just thought it was the intensity of the graphics, but it could be the subliminal messaging that's coming through the game, because remember, our eyes can only register a certain number of frames per second. So when you've got high definition TV, that is a significantly higher number of frames than your eye can even process. That's why when HD TV and all these kind of things came out, they look so unnatural because the depth of the detail was so deep. But the question is, if, say for example, your eyes can process 10 frames, but you've got 30, the question is, what are you putting in the other 20? Because I can only see 10. So what are you embedding subliminally in the other 20? And I'll tell you a true story. I know that they put subliminal messaging in programs. Because, when I was younger, I used to smoke weed, and I was watching TV with a friend. And this commercial that had come on several times, seen it so many times before, we're stoned and we're sitting there watching this commercial, and everything was slowed. And just somewhere in the middle of this commercial, it was like an 80s music video with the guitar piano thingy, big shoulder pads, and the girls have got the slick down hair and they're singing and they're dancing with this man. Everybody just did something, like they winked, or they kind of did a funny expression, or they did something with their hand. And me and my friend just turned and looked at each other like, did you just see that? And she was like, yeah, did you just see that? Now, somebody might say you're stoned, so you don't know what you're talking about. But the two of us saw it at the same time. When I was watching the TV after that incident, the advert came on again, and every single time I watched it, I cannot tell you what I saw in that advert. I watched it again and again. Every time it came on, I tried to pinpoint what I saw, and I couldn't see it. But when I was under the influence of weed, and that commercial was slowed down and probably playing over in my mind, it was so apparent that there was an embedded symbol in there. So we know that from the beginning of cinema, they do things like embed images of drinks so that when you have breaks or when you're finished, you go and buy a drink. Because, you know, back in the day when they used to be in the cinema, they either used to cut the movie or you could kind of like go in for the whole day on your money. So when the movie finished, you could go out, get refreshments and go in and watch another movie on the same money. So I know subliminal messaging and embedded images are in different programs. Okay. So all of this is converging to the accepting of the Antichrist, which is really the point of this video. People say, well, why would you collapse the economy? Blah, 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 blah. Let's talk about depopulation. You've got old people who cannot work. They're not contributing. They're taking money from the state. And also they're going to, blow the whistle that something here is not right. Then you've got the people who cannot work, whether they are unemployed or like they have some kind of disability or sickness. For the elites, they're also a drain on the resources. You have the people who will die directly as a result of coronavirus, but you will also have people who die as a result of the fallout, people who starve to death. They're talking about people being quarantined. So what if you are somebody who is more vulnerable but living quite independently? How will you be able to cope in this crisis when there are, health workers going down, charities struggling to cope? People could fall through the cracks that way. One of the things that I thought, but it was kind of said to me before, not really necessarily confirmed, I don't want to wish bad on anybody, but isolation, and now I think about it, job losses could cause a spike in suicides. There are some people, their mental state cannot cope with isolation. And if there's another recession and a depression, people become so distraught and so filled with despair, they could kill themselves. And then if the hospitals and the staff are overwhelmed dealing with coronavirus patients, other people with other issues could be neglected. So these are just some of the ways that I was thinking, this virus is going to kill a number of people. Not everybody's going to die of the disease, but the fallout from the disease is also going to impact people. Now, if this lasts much longer and you get to the state of looting and rioting, some people will just die because either they'll be killed by the police or they'll be killed by people robbing their house for food and goods. They're not prosecuting people for low-level crimes. So what's going to happen to the low-level criminals roaming on the street? They're out of control. One of the things I have noticed is more police on the road, but probably there aren't more police on the road. It's just there's no one else on the road. So the feeling of an enhanced police presence is also normalized. And if people continue to flout the rules on quarantines and things, then they're going to bring in stronger, tougher measures. So it's incrementally becoming more of a police state. And people might say, well, seeing as we can't police ourselves, let's just keep it like this. Seeing as so many people can be laid off and to keep our business going, we brought in automation, let's just keep it like this. And years ago, people said they're building all these fancy stadiums to be, they claim that they're for sporting events. But Excel Arena in East London is now allegedly being converted into a hospital, quote unquote, a hospital. Is it being converted into a hospital or a morgue? They tell us it's a hospital. But who are you treating there when there's no ventilators? Because there's a big issue about PPE and ventilators. So who are you putting in this arena? Are you storing people to get well, or are you putting bodies? Or are you going to put people who refuse to behave and you're going to turn it into internment camps. I'm just saying, I'm just asking. So, as we see through Revelations 13, hyperinflation is a reality. You're buying a little bottle of hand gel for £12. Why? Because the guy's going to say, oh, the guy at the cash and carry sold it to me high, so I have to sell it high. If there's a shortage of food, whoever controls the food controls the people. So when people become desperate, you're going to see crime. You're going to see desperation, prostitution, whatever. And then you're also maybe getting a breakdown of the middle classes, you know, because the middle class is living paycheck to paycheck. They can budget for the year with their salary with very little free cash. So people might lose their home because they can't earn money. You want to get rid of some of these businesses and kind of consolidate them. Speaking of consolidation, you have Disney Plus. I think Disney Plus was recently launched, and it's like Disney, Pixar, Simpsons. It's got a big advert. We know Disney's buying up everything. So you have a very small handful of people really controlling everything. I don't know about in the States, but I don't buy Procter & Gamble products because I hear that they're sponsored by the Church of Satan, or there's some affiliation between Procter & Gamble and the Church of Satan. And sometimes between shows, you have like 3, 4, 5 different products. They are all Procter & Gamble. A Febreze advert comes on, then Pampers, then Lenore, then this, then Crest, then Gillette. They're all Procter & Gamble owned companies. They monopolize the market and the commercial space. Just like newspapers. We have so many newspapers, but they're all run by a handful of organizations. That's why the stories are the same. And we've seen the same thing with narratives being pushed, even with news reports. Word for word on different networks, the exact same story said the exact same way. So this is why when people debate about why would you collapse the economy, or why would you do this and people will die, or how can the health service cope, or this is not about any of those natural things. All those natural things are just a means to an end to push humanity into one accord so that they'll be ready to receive the antichrist. This is not a battle for money or land or property. It's just, if I can't fatigue you in one way, I'll get you in another. If I can't destroy you through religion, I'll destroy you through economy because you need to eat. If I can't destroy you through economy, then I'll destroy you through, just killing you off outrightly. If you're not going to comply with the quarantining rules, eventually we'll have to start arresting, fining, and then maybe we'll just kill you because you're being you're a killer, you're a spreader, and we're gradually ramping up, giving up our power and increasing our tolerance of all kind of wickedness in order to say, finally, we'll receive the Antichrist who's going to bring solutions to all these problems. Oh, do you remember the coronavirus of 2020? But thank God for mandatory vaccinating. And you don't know what's in the vaccine. Some people propose that there's DNA in there that gets incorporated into your DNA, and over time it dumbs you down, which makes sense because the scripture says once you take the mark of the beast, you cannot be saved. As I said in the last video, if you've got chips in the brain that interface with the brain, they start to send signals to you. If we have virtual reality, if we have more and more, not AI or smart technology, but just more Wi-Fi in the environment, like we're interfacing more and more with augmented reality, over time you will not be able to be saved because you won't know what's real. And you're so heavily under the influence of propaganda, you won't know your own thoughts from the thoughts that they're feeding to you. So this is not about technology or AI or automation or collapsing economies. This is about collapsing all orders to establish one new world order. And the head of that new world order is the Antichrist. This is not a battle between man and man. This is a battle between Satan and God. and we are just in the middle, being forced now to pick a side. So I hope this has been helpful. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Like, share, and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.